Did you know that one everyday fruit, something you've likely eaten your entire life, could quietly raise your risk of a stroke overnight with no pain, no warning, and no chance to react? Most older adults have no idea. They go to bed feeling perfectly normal, only to wake up with slurred speech, sudden weakness, or an arm or leg that simply won't move. And the heartbreaking truth is this: it doesn't always come from smoking, junk food, or unhealthy habits. Sometimes it begins with a fruit you believed was helping you stay healthy. As a brain doctor who has spent decades treating Americans over 60, I've watched too many seniors fall victim to silent dangers hiding in their daily routines. Not because they were careless, but because no one ever told them how dramatically the body changes with age. What fuels a 40-year-old can overwhelm a 70-year-old. And what your doctor once encouraged may now interact with medications, spike your blood sugar, destabilize your circulation, or quietly set the stage for deadly clots during the night. Today, I'm going to reveal the 7 fruits that deserve a second look, ones that can quietly disrupt the aging brain and heart if eaten the wrong way. And trust me, you will never look at your fruit bowl the same again. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Grapefruit, silent drug interactions that turn deadly overnight. For decades, grapefruit has been marketed as the breakfast fruit of health-conscious Americans, a bright, refreshing way to start the morning. Something so common, so familiar that many older adults never question it. But as someone who has spent a lifetime treating stroke patients, I can tell you this: grapefruit is one of the most dangerous fruits for people over 60 who take prescription medications. Not because the fruit is bad, but because the aging body processes it in a profoundly different way. As we grow older, the liver, our main chemical filter, slows down. The enzymes responsible for breaking down medications no longer work with the same precision they once did. Grapefruit contains a natural compound called furanocoumarin, and in older adults, this compound acts like a silent trap door. It blocks the liver enzyme CYP3A4, the very pathway your body relies on to clear many heart, cholesterol, and blood pressure medications. Here's the terrifying part: when grapefruit blocks that pathway, your medications continue circulating in your bloodstream longer, stronger, and more unpredictably than intended. The levels can slowly climb without any warning signs. No headache, no dizziness, no pain, nothing. Then suddenly, during the quiet hours of the night, when blood pressure naturally dips and circulation slows, those accumulated drug levels can push your body into a perfect storm. Blood pressure may fall too low. Heart rhythm may become unstable. Blood vessels in the brain may constrict sharply. And in that fragile moment, the conditions for a stroke are created. I have stood beside too many hospital beds witnessing the aftermath. One of my patients, a retired Navy veteran from Florida, took his morning medications with a large glass of freshly squeezed grapefruit juice, something he had done for over 20 years. When he entered his 70s, his doctor increased his statin dose. But he did not realize that grapefruit would now amplify that medication day after day. His blood became chemically unstable, his blood pressure unpredictable, and one morning, his wife found him slumped in his recliner, unable to lift his right arm. A tiny clot had formed overnight, traveled into a narrow artery in his brain, and blocked blood flow. He looked at me with confusion and whispered, "Doctor, how could a fruit do this?" It is a question I hear often. The truth is, grapefruit doesn't create the clot alone, but it creates the internal environment where clots become far more likely. When medications rise to toxic levels, the lining of blood vessels becomes irritated. Blood becomes more prone to clotting in small, sticky patches. Vessels in the brain tighten unpredictably. And during sleep, when the brain is most vulnerable, it triggers strokes that leave lasting damage. This is why grapefruit is uniquely dangerous for older adults. Younger bodies can compensate. Older bodies cannot. What used to be a harmless breakfast habit at age 40 can become a life-altering risk at age 70. If you take statins, calcium channel blockers, antiarrhythmics, or certain blood thinners, even a single glass of grapefruit juice can interfere for up to 72 hours. Most seniors are never told this, and yet this interaction is one of the most common preventable causes of medication-related stroke in older Americans. My advice is simple. If you are over 60 and take prescription medications, speak with your doctor before consuming grapefruit in any form. A small conversation may save you from a devastating event. Because here's the unsettling truth. Sometimes the greatest danger in an older adult's diet is not what we fear, but what we trust too much. And if grapefruit surprised you, wait until you discover the fruit in the next section, because its sweetness hides a threat that can destabilize your blood sugar and quietly set the stage for blood clots as you sleep. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Sweet bananas, a hidden potassium overload that older kidneys cannot handle. Bananas have long been considered one of America's safest, healthiest fruits. Soft, inexpensive, easy on the stomach, something grandparents keep on the counter for themselves, their children, and their grandchildren. But for adults over 60, bananas hold a quiet danger that often goes completely unnoticed until it becomes too late. The problem isn't the fruit itself, it's what aging kidneys can no longer do. As we grow older, our kidneys, responsible for clearing excess minerals like potassium, lose efficiency. By age 60, many Americans already have reduced kidney function without knowing it. Add high blood pressure, diabetes, or heart disease into the picture, and the kidney's ability to filter potassium drops even more. Now imagine placing on top of that the medications many seniors rely on. ACE inhibitors, ARBs, potassium-sparing diuretics, certain heart failure medications. All these drugs increase potassium levels in the blood. Then comes the banana. Sweet, harmless, trusted. But a single medium banana contains far more potassium than most people realize. And when the kidneys cannot clear that potassium efficiently, levels begin to rise silently day after day. Here is where things turn dangerous. High potassium doesn't cause pain, it doesn't cause a fever, it does not warn you. But internally, it disrupts the heart's electrical rhythm. It slows conduction pathways, weakens the heartbeat, and alters how blood vessels constrict and relax. When potassium climbs too high in an older adult, the heart can begin to misfire and blood flow becomes unstable, moving slower, less effectively, and with dangerous turbulence. And it is in that unstable circulation that blood clots begin to form. I once cared for a 71-year-old retired carpenter from Ohio, healthy, active, well-meaning. Every morning, he ate 2 bananas to get more energy and to stop nighttime leg cramps. But he was also on medications for high blood pressure and mild heart failure and he had no idea these drugs caused potassium to accumulate. Over several months, his potassium levels increased beyond what his aging kidneys could manage. One night, while he was asleep, his heart rhythm shifted into a dangerous pattern. Blood pressure fluctuated sharply. A small clot formed in a narrow artery supplying the speech center of his brain. By morning, he woke unable to speak clearly. His first words to me were delivered through tears of frustration. "Doctor, I was just eating fruit." This is the haunting reality I wish more older Americans understood. Even the healthiest fruit can become harmful when age and medications change the rules of the body. Excess potassium weakens heart rhythm, slows blood circulation, creates conditions where blood thickens and forms clots. And yes, it triggers strokes, often in the early morning hours when circulation is at its slowest. Not every older adult will experience this, but those on heart medications, those with declining kidney function, and those who eat bananas daily without realizing their potassium load are living closer to this silent danger than they know. Practical guidance. If you are over 60 and take medications for blood pressure, heart failure, or diabetes, do not consume bananas in large portions. Half a banana is often enough. And always discuss potassium-rich foods with your physician. Because the truth is simple. What your body tolerated at 40 may quietly overwhelm your system at 70. And if you think bananas are the only healthy fruit that can destabilize an aging bloodstream, wait until you hear about the tropical favorite in the next section. A fruit whose acidity and enzymes can disrupt sleep, irritate blood vessels, and set the stage for nighttime strokes without a single warning sign. 3. Pineapple, a dangerous mix of acid, sugar, and enzymes for the aging brain. Pineapple feels like sunshine on a plate. Sweet, bright, refreshing. Something many older adults in America enjoy as a guilt-free dessert after dinner. It seems innocent. It seems even healthy. But as someone who has spent decades caring for older patients recovering from stroke, I can tell you this. Pineapple carries a hidden set of risks that become far more dangerous after the age of 60. This is not fear-mongering. This is physiology. Your physiology, altered by time, medications, and the natural slowing of the aging body. Let's start with the part most people never hear about, bromelain, the enzyme found in pineapple. In small amounts, it can help digestion, but in older adults, especially those taking blood thinners like warfarin, aspirin, clopidogrel, or newer agents, bromelain can amplify the effect of those medications, weakening your blood's ability to clot. At 40, your body may compensate. At 70, it often cannot. When your blood becomes too thin, the delicate vessels inside your brain become vulnerable. A small tear, a tiny leak, an irritated vessel wall, any of these can begin a cascade that leads to disaster. And yes, in many cases it forms blood clots as your body frantically attempts to repair the damage. These clots can then travel into narrow arteries of the brain and block blood flow. It triggers strokes, often during sleep when blood pressure naturally shifts and the brain is least protected. But that is only the first danger. The second lies in pineapple's high sugar load. The glycemic spike from a cup of pineapple is sharp and fast, especially in the evening when the body is preparing to rest. For seniors with diabetes, prediabetes, or insulin resistance, a condition affecting over half of Americans over 65, this surge forces the blood vessels to constrict. Sugar irritates the vessel lining, thickens the blood temporarily, and increases the likelihood of clot formation. Combined with the blood-thinning potential of bromelain, this creates a deeply unstable environment inside the brain's vascular system. And still, there is one more danger, one that many older adults overlook because it does not always come with heartburn or pain. Pineapple is one of the most acidic fruits in the American diet. That acidity can cause nighttime reflux, even without symptoms. In older adults, reflux can lead to microaspiration, tiny amounts of stomach acid entering the airway while you sleep, lowering oxygen levels and placing stress on the brain. Repeated night after night, even small drops in oxygen can weaken the most fragile vessels in the brain's posterior circulation, the area responsible for balance and coordination. I remember a 76-year-old choir director from North Carolina who ate pineapple every evening as her healthy dessert. She never felt reflux, never experienced heartburn, never suspected danger. But over a year, she developed silent inflammation in her airway and fluctuations in her nighttime blood sugar, conditions that slowly weakened her circulation. One morning, she awoke dizzy and confused. A scan confirmed a small stroke in the back of her brain. She looked at me and said softly, "Doctor, I thought I was doing everything right." The truth is, many seniors are, but they're doing it by the rules of a younger body, rules that no longer apply. Practical guidance. If you enjoy pineapple, eat it earlier in the day, in small amounts, and never on an empty stomach. Avoid it entirely before bed, especially if you take medications that affect clotting. Because at this age, the body no longer whispers warnings, it acts. And if pineapple's hidden risks surprise you, wait until you learn about the next fruit, a summertime favorite that seems hydrating, yet can quietly pull water out of your bloodstream and leave your brain dangerously vulnerable by morning. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Watermelon, a summer favorite that can quietly dehydrate the aging brain. For most Americans, especially those who grew up in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, watermelon is woven into memories of family picnics, 4th of July celebrations, and long, warm evenings in the backyard. It feels safe, it feels nostalgic. And because it's nearly 90% water, many older adults believe watermelon is the perfect fruit to stay hydrated. But after decades treating stroke patients, I must tell you a truth that surprises many seniors. Watermelon can dehydrate older adults far more than it hydrates them. And under the wrong conditions, that dehydration can silently set the stage for a stroke while you sleep. Here is the part most people never learn. As we age, our kidneys grow less efficient, our thirst mechanism weakens, and our ability to regulate sodium and fluid balance becomes fragile. On top of this, many seniors take medications that already pull fluid from the body. Diuretics, water pills, blood pressure medications, heart failure medications. Now, imagine eating several large slices of watermelon after dinner. It feels refreshing. It feels hydrating. But watermelon acts as a natural diuretic, increasing urine output. And for someone whose body already struggles to maintain fluid balance, this can cause a slow, unnoticed drop in overall hydration. You don't feel it, you don't see it, but inside the body, your bloodstream begins to thicken, just slightly at first. This thickening is dangerous. When the blood becomes more concentrated, especially at night when hydration drops naturally and blood pressure dips, the risk of clot formation rises sharply. In the narrow arteries that supply the brain, thickened blood moves sluggishly, giving clots more time to form and more time to lodge in a vulnerable vessel. And yes, it forms blood clots, often so small they're invisible on early scans, yet large enough to block a vessel feeding speech, balance, or memory. I once treated an 83-year-old retired postal worker from Indiana who ate watermelon every evening to stay hydrated. He was on a diuretic for heart failure, and the combination of his medication plus nightly watermelon meant his body was losing far more water than he realized. One morning, he woke with severe dizziness. When he tried to stand, his legs collapsed beneath him. A CT scan confirmed a small ischemic stroke triggered by a clot formed during the night when his blood had become too concentrated. He looked at me bewildered and said, "Doctor, I thought it was just water." That sentence stays with me because for older adults, nothing is just anything anymore. Every food interacts with an aging body differently, especially when combined with medications. When dehydration strikes, even mildly, blood becomes thicker, blood vessels tighten, oxygen supply to the brain decreases, and the perfect conditions emerge for a stroke. It triggers strokes not with dramatic warning signs, but through quiet physiological shifts that go unnoticed until the damage is already done. But the danger doesn't end with dehydration. Watermelon's natural sugars can cause a late evening rise and fall in blood glucose, stressing the vessels and causing further instability during sleep, another subtle pathway toward clot formation. Practical guidance. If you love watermelon, eat it earlier in the day. Pair it with electrolytes, not plain water alone. And if you take diuretics or have heart or kidney issues, speak with your doctor before making it a nightly habit. Because even something as innocent as a summer fruit can become a silent threat when the body is vulnerable. And if you think watermelon is the only fruit that interacts dangerously with medications, wait until you hear about the next one. A citrus favorite that can quietly interfere with the very drugs meant to protect your heart and brain. 5. Oranges. Citrus interactions that disrupt medications and endanger the brain. For generations, oranges have symbolized health in the American household. A glass of orange juice at breakfast, slices packed into children's lunchboxes, a bowl of bright fruit on the kitchen counter. Many older adults still begin their mornings this way, believing oranges are a pure, wholesome choice. But for adults over 60, especially those taking heart or blood pressure medications, oranges can create a dangerous and invisible interaction inside the body, one that slowly destabilizes circulation and sets the stage for a stroke. Most seniors are never told this. Inside citrus fruits like oranges, and especially in certain varieties, lies a natural compound called furanocoumarin. It doesn't taste bitter, it doesn't change the smell, but it can profoundly alter how your liver processes medication. The liver uses a key enzyme, CYP3A4, to break down many common prescriptions, including statins, calcium channel blockers, certain antiarrhythmics, some blood thinners, blood pressure medications. When an older adult eats oranges regularly or drinks orange juice with their morning pills, this compound can partially block that enzyme. The result is alarming. Your medication stops breaking down at the intended speed. It lingers, it builds, and day after day, the levels in your bloodstream creep beyond what's safe, quietly, invisibly, relentlessly. In a younger body, the system might adjust. But for someone in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, whose liver function is slower, whose vessels are more fragile, whose medications are essential, this buildup can be devastating. Here is where the danger becomes deadly. When medication levels rise too high, Blood pressure may drop too low or swing dramatically. Vessel walls become irritated. Muscles around blood vessels contract unpredictably. The blood itself may become unstable, too thin, too sluggish, or moving with uneven force. In that vulnerable state, it forms blood clots, often in areas where the vessel lining has been weakened by years of inflammation or cholesterol buildup. These tiny clots drift into the narrow arteries feeding the brain. And once lodged, it triggers strokes that steal speech, movement, vision, or memory within minutes. I cared for a 78-year-old man from Georgia, a retired bus driver with a broad smile and a gentle voice. Every morning, he took his statin and blood pressure medication with a tall glass of fresh orange juice. It was his routine for years, but no one ever explained that orange juice could block the very enzyme his liver needed to safely clear those medications. Over time, the drug levels in his bloodstream rose higher than expected. His blood pressure began fluctuating. His circulation grew unstable. One afternoon, while standing from his recliner, he collapsed. A CT scan revealed a small ischemic stroke caused by a clot that had formed during a period of extreme blood pressure instability. When I explained the interaction between citrus and his medications, he shook his head and whispered, "Doctor, I was only trying to be healthy." That sentence captures a heartbreaking truth. Many older Americans are harmed not by unhealthy choices, but by good choices made without the right information. This does not mean oranges are bad for everyone, but for adults over 60 taking prescription medications, citrus can become a chemical wildcard, turning a harmless morning habit into a slow moving danger. Practical guidance: if you take heart, cholesterol, or blood pressure medications, avoid combining them with oranges or orange juice until you consult your physician. Even a small daily serving can cause significant interaction over time. Because in the aging body, the difference between safety and risk can be as small as a single glass of juice. And if learning this makes you uneasy, wait until you hear about the next fruit, one Americans often trust most, yet one that can quietly overload blood sugar, inflame fragile vessels, and leave the aging brain vulnerable without a single warning sign. 6. Apples, the sweetness trap that destabilizes blood sugar in older adults. For most of our lives, apples have been marketed as the picture of American health. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's a comforting idea, simple, familiar, almost patriotic. Many seniors snack on apples believing they are making a safe, heart-healthy choice. And while apples can be healthy, the truth is far more complicated for the aging body. The danger isn't the apple itself, it's how the older body responds to sudden sugar shifts, a process that becomes more fragile with every passing decade. What many seniors don't realize is that modern apples, especially the sweeter varieties like Honeycrisp, Fuji, and Gala, have been bred to contain significantly more natural sugar than apples of the past. Their flavor is wonderful, but their glycemic impact is sharper, faster, and harsher on aging blood vessels. When someone over 60 eats a very sweet apple on an empty stomach, here's what happens. Blood sugar spikes quickly, rising far more than it would have years earlier. 1. Insulin surges, attempting to bring the sugar back down. 2. The blood vessels constrict in response to the sudden biochemical stress. 3. The lining of the arteries, already thinner and more fragile with age, becomes irritated. This irritation doesn't cause pain you can feel, but inside the vessel wall, tiny inflammatory reactions begin. These reactions create micro tears, small, vulnerable patches that the body rushes to repair. And how does the body repair them? By forming tiny blood clots. Normally, the body dissolves these clots, but in older adults, especially those with hypertension, diabetes, or high cholesterol, these clots hold on longer, become stickier, and have a greater chance of traveling into the narrow arteries of the brain. I have treated numerous patients who believed apples were the safest snack they could choose. One woman, an 80-year-old retired librarian from Pennsylvania, ate a large Honeycrisp apple every afternoon. She didn't have diabetes, but she had mild insulin resistance and didn't know it. Her daily sugar spikes slowly weakened the endothelium, the delicate inner lining of her blood vessels. Over months, the small tears became sites of inflammation, and the inflammation became fertile ground for clot formation. One evening, while preparing dinner, she noticed her words slurring. Within minutes, she lost the ability to hold a spoon. A CT scan confirmed a minor ischemic stroke, a clot lodged in a vessel supplying the language center of her brain. Her voice trembled when she asked me, "Doctor, how could an apple do this?" I told her the truth. It wasn't the apple alone. It was how her aging metabolism responded to the sugar inside it. In older adults, large fluctuations in blood sugar create thickened, more sticky blood, spasms in the arteries, hidden vessel inflammation, and conditions where it forms blood clots that can reach the brain. Once a clot finds its way to a vulnerable vessel, it triggers strokes, often mild at first, but potentially devastating as the damage accumulates over time. This doesn't mean seniors should avoid apples entirely. Lower sugar varieties like Granny Smith are safer, and apples should always be paired with protein or healthy fats, like a slice of cheese or a tablespoon of almond butter, to slow absorption and protect the vessels. Practical guidance: avoid eating sweet apples alone, especially in the evening. Do not assume fruit is automatically safe simply because it is natural. The aging body needs stability, not spikes. Because what looks like a simple afternoon snack may quietly strain a system already working overtime to keep you standing, speaking, and independent. And if apples, a symbol of American health, can carry hidden risks, wait until you learn about the fruit in the next section. A deep red favorite packed with antioxidants, yet capable of thinning your blood so much that a tiny leak inside the brain can turn into a life-changing catastrophe. 7. Cherries, a natural blood thinner that can push seniors into dangerous territory. Cherries are one of those fruits that feel luxurious yet harmless. Their deep red color, their sweet tart flavor, their reputation for reducing inflammation, everything about them seems healthy. Many older adults in America enjoy a small bowl after dinner, believing it's a smart alternative to sugary desserts. But what most seniors don't realize, and what I've seen again and again in my decades as a neurologist, is that cherries contain natural compounds that act remarkably similar to blood thinners. In younger adults, this is usually harmless. In older adults, especially those already taking medications for the heart or blood vessels, it can become a silent and dangerous combination. Inside cherries lies a group of natural chemicals called salicylates. These compounds reduce inflammation and thin the blood slightly, much like a gentle form of aspirin. For someone who is not taking any medications, this may offer small benefits. But for a senior who is already on aspirin, warfarin, clopidogrel, apixaban, or other anticoagulants, the combined effect can push the blood's clotting ability beyond safe limits. Here's why this matters so deeply for the aging brain. As we grow older, the blood vessels in the brain become more delicate, their walls thin, their elasticity decreases, their resilience fades. Even a mild drop in platelet activity, something cherries can contribute to, can transform a stable vessel into a fragile one. If the vessel wall weakens further, a micro tear can form, and at that tear, the body attempts to respond. But in older adults, the response can become chaotic. Sometimes the body tries to clot too much. Sometimes it cannot clot enough. Both scenarios are dangerous. A micro tear inside the brain can produce a small hemorrhage, something that may begin with just a few drops of blood. But if the blood is thinned by medication and further thinned by cherries, that small leak may not stop. It can expand, press into surrounding brain tissue, and interrupt the flow of oxygen in minutes. On the other hand, salicylates can also irritate vessel walls just enough to create spots of inflammation, areas where tiny blood clots can form as the body tries to repair the irritation. These clots may travel into narrowed arteries of the brain, lodge themselves, and trigger strokes without warning. I remember caring for an 84-year-old retired train conductor from Illinois. He ended every dinner with a bowl of cherries. Nature's dessert, he'd call it. He was also taking a daily low-dose aspirin and a heart medication. At first, there were no symptoms. Then came mild headaches, occasional dizziness, a morning when he felt unusually confused, and then, suddenly, a collapse in his bathroom. A scan revealed a small hemorrhagic stroke, a bleed inside the brain. His medication levels were normal. His vitals were stable. But the vessel that ruptured had been slowly weakened by chronic overthinning of his blood, the result of mixing prescribed anticoagulants with salicylate-rich cherries night after night. He survived, but the damage to his balance and memory remained. It is cases like his that compel me to speak plainly to older adults. Food that is healthy for the general population can become dangerous when medications and age-related changes alter the internal landscape of the body. This doesn't mean seniors must avoid cherries forever. A few cherries occasionally, eaten earlier in the day, are usually safe. But if you are on any type of blood thinner, even the mild ones, you must treat cherries with the same caution you treat medications. Practical guidance. Never consume large portions of cherries if you are on anticoagulants. Avoid cherry concentrate or juice entirely. When in doubt, ask your doctor. It's a simple question that can prevent devastating consequences. Because at this stage of life, even 1 extra ounce of blood thinning can shift the balance from protection to peril. And now that you've learned how even beloved fruits can become hidden dangers, the next step is crucial. Understanding the bigger picture of how to choose fruit wisely, safely, and intentionally to protect your brain in the years ahead. Final reflection. What these hidden risks mean for your brain after 60. By now, you've seen the truth behind 7 fruits that millions of older Americans eat every day, fruits that appear harmless on the surface, yet can quietly disrupt the delicate balance inside an aging body. None of these dangers come from the fruit alone. They come from the way age, medications, and slower metabolic systems change the rules we once lived by. After 60, your liver does not break down medications as quickly, your kidneys do not filter minerals as efficiently, your blood vessels do not repair themselves as strongly, and your brain, the most fragile organ of all, relies on constant, stable blood flow to protect memory, movement, and independence. When a fruit spikes your blood sugar, the vessels tighten. When a fruit thins your blood too much, the vessels weaken. When a fruit interacts with medication, the bloodstream becomes unpredictable. And in these moments of instability, it forms blood clots, it disrupts circulation, and yes, it triggers strokes that can reshape your life in seconds. This is why understanding fruit at this stage of life is not about fear. It is about wisdom. It is about honoring the reality of an older body that has served you faithfully for decades. And it is about protecting the years you still have, years you deserve to live with clarity, dignity, and independence. You do not need to avoid fruit. You simply need to choose with intention. Lower sugar berries instead of high sugar varieties. Fruits eaten earlier in the day, not late at night. Portions that respect your medications and medical conditions. And above all, awareness that even healthy habits can shift with age. Your brain listens to everything you feed it, and now, armed with knowledge, you have the power to feed it wisely. Because the goal is not just to live longer, but to stay sharp, steady, and fully yourself every single day. If you want, I can now create a safe fruit list for seniors, a daily eating guide, or a one-page checklist based on all 7 risks. Which would you like next? These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.